Today, this is our purpose today. It's a special combined lesson. It's our final lesson of 10. And our purpose is to meet Professor Rod Ellis. And from now on, with his permission, I'm going to call him Rod. And we're going to revise the principles of instructed language learning, which is the article we've been reading over the past 9-10 weeks. And this gives a chance for students to query anything that we're still unsure about. And another purpose is to show what Islamic University of Gaza students are capable of. I know it, Nazmi knows it, Salah knows it, but other people aren't necessarily aware of it, even in a position of incredible difficulty. And I don't want this to sound strange, but a big purpose for today is for me to thank you. It's been a privilege. So, so our plan is an introduction from Nazmi and Salah, my esteemed Gazan collaborators. And then I'll give a brief introduction to our guest today, Rod, Professor Ellis. I'll give a brief reminder of the 10 principles of instructed language learning, which our students know about, and obviously Rod knows about, I know about, but maybe some in the audience don't know about. And these principles have formed the spine of our course. The main part of our session will be questions to Rod from our students. And at this point, I realize that it's late in New Zealand and Rod has his weekend has already started. So I realize that Rod will probably need to leave us at some point. But then there will be chance for comments from the audience. We have prepared some certificates, a small thank you to the students for the participants. And I'd like to offer a final word to Nazmi. So that's the overview of what we'll be doing. So a little mention of who we are. Okay, so I'll tell you about our students from Northumbria University. Nazmi will do the same for the students at the Islamic University of Gaza. And then Salah will tell us about the Hope Hub initiative. So we'll do this very quickly so that we can get started on the questions, which is the main thing. So I work as the program leader for the BA in English Language and Linguistics. And our first year students do a course called Introduction to TESOL. And they come with probably with no teaching experience at all. And it's been a challenge for me to work out a way that combines some theory with a practical element. And I've been struggling with this for 4 years since I started at Northumbria. And finally this year, I think I've nailed it. And the solution has been Rod's article published in System in 2005, Principles of Instructed Language Learning, which has given a great spine to the course. Our students at Northumbria have been taking the course for the past 11 or 12 weeks, looking at one of the principles each week. And in parallel, I've been teaching the same, team teaching with Nazmi, the same lessons. And just once last week, we had a joint session with students from Northumbria University and the Islamic University of Gaza, which was wonderful. It was at a much more sensible time for everybody because we didn't have the New Zealand time difference to factor in. So we had a good turnout from students at both universities, and it was a great success. And I hope it's something we can build on in the future. So that's a little bit about our students from Northumbria University. So Nazmi, can I just pass over to you to talk a little bit about your students and the difficulties that you are facing in Gaza as a teacher.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and good evening also to Professor Ellis in New Zealand. It's an honor for us all to be with you all, and this is really uplifting to Palestinians in Gaza to see colleagues, students waking up in the early morning or late in the evening just to collaborate with the students in Gaza. This is really highly appreciated. It's an honor for all of us, and it's really boosts our resilience to educate our students very well. My name is Nazmi Al-Masri. I graduated from Manchester University 30 years ago. Through this period of time when I was doing my master and PhD in the UK, I uh, uh, quoted some of Professor Ellis' writings and books and articles in language acquisition course. I teach at the English language department at the Islamic University of Gaza. And my students are first year students who are specialized in English language. And they are part of the group who joined the university after what's happening in Gaza. And though they are facing numerous challenges, a lack of electricity, a lack of internet, but they don't lack determination, resilience, and hope that through such collaboration and online sessions, they strengthen their determination, self-confidence, and goodwill in the international community at institutional level rather than at governmental level, because we feel we let down by almost all governments of the whole world. And here comes the initiative by Dr. Bill, who really initiated this idea as a way of supporting education in Gaza and rebuilding and participating in rebuilding education in Gaza. We are all proud of you from Gaza for coming to this meeting. And it's an honor and a pleasure for all of us and a pride to all of us in Gaza. And in behalf of the Islamic University of Gaza, I would like to thank every one of you and express our gratitude for coming and attending this session and participating in this session. A special thanks to Professor Rod Ellis for coming today and joining us. This is an honor for us. We highly appreciate your support and your participation with us. By the way, the Islamic University, though its name says Islamic, but that's for identity purposes. It teaches medicine, nursing, engineering, science, languages, business, and almost all subjects. And it is well rated and well reputed university with many professors at the universities, graduates of British and American and European universities and across the world, even from Japan, South Africa, China, and other countries. It's an honor to see this international gathering from France, from Vietnam, from Palestine, from New Zealand, from UK. Thanks all, and really I can't express my feelings about how happy I am today for seeing all of you coming to support our Palestinian students who are in that need to boost their morals and uplift their spirits in such in such situation where circumstances are not easy to live, where people, 90% of the people are lived now are forced or have been experienced forced displacement. So most of the students have been displaced, no internet, no homes, no electricity, no resources, and they struggle so much to save power on their mobiles or laptop, because the only source now, we try our best to use some light to get some electricity, and we are in winter time where sunlight is or daytime is very short. Thank you very much, and again, um, uh, I'm happy and grateful to all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nazmi. Yep, Nazmi has just talked about the challenges, including the electricity challenges. And one of the ways that we've been able to get around this is with the help of Hope Hubs, which have been organized by my colleague Salah, who has also been displaced. Salah, can you briefly tell us about Hope Hubs before we move on to the questions to Rod?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bill. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rod for being part of this session. Also, I would like to thank all colleagues from Northumbria University and the student from Islamic University of Gaza and Northumbria University to be part of this session also. Also, a special thanks also go to Dr. Bill and Dr. Nazmi for their efforts in these sessions and workshop. Hope Hub is an initiative that trying to empower the Palestinian in Gaza by providing spaces for students, freelancers, remote workers, also academics, so they can continue their education journey. Also, they can back to work. We started before 1 year, and we helped hundreds of people to back to work and to continue the education journey. Right now, we have several partnerships with several universities like Glasgow University, Northumbria University, and several local university like Najah University, Islamic University, and we are trying to help students to continue their education and empowering all the students in the high education, also in the secondary levels. So we provided all of these spaces, training courses, mentorship, coaching. Also, we created several platforms for mentoring and for Talent Connects. We currently connect people or professionals with companies from the regional and international countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Salah. Okay, so I'll give a brief introduction to Professor Ellis. And Rod is a distinguished research professor at Curtin University. That's in Australia, Perth. He's an emeritus distinguished professor at the University of Auckland in New Zealand, where I believe he is now. He's worked at universities in the UK, Japan, and the USA, and he's a fellow of the Royal Society of New Zealand. He has published widely in the related fields of second language acquisition research and task-based language teaching. He's won the British Association of Applied Linguists Prize, 1985, the Mildenberger Prize, 1987, the Duke of Edinburgh Prize, in 1994, and the International Association of Task-Based Teaching Prize in 2021. And like Nazmi, I've relied on Rod's work throughout my own career. I'm sure that's true of my colleagues as well. Overall, I think that Rod tries to connect second language acquisition quite closely to what happens in the classroom. I've always had the feeling from reading his work that he's keen to leave space for the personal slant. I think he values what teachers can bring to research. He values the opinions which are born of practice. And I think perhaps he's quite unusual in that way, in that his work demonstrates two poles. The first pole consists of works embracing the staggering detail and the complexity of second language acquisition. So I'm just naming three works that we have in numbers on our shelves at Northumbria: Classroom Second Language Development, a study of classroom interaction and language acquisition from 1988. Implicit and Explicit Knowledge in Second Language Learning, Testing and Teaching from 2009, and Understanding Second Language Acquisition from 2015. You'll see at the end that I'm going to recommend some reading, which is from this year that Rod has done. The second pole of his work consists of works attempting to make sense of these issues in the way that teachers can actually relate to and contribute to. And that brings me to the article Principles of Instructing Language Learning in System in 2005, which, as I've said, has been the spine of our 10-week course, both for my Northumbria students. And thank you, it's good to see some of the students arriving now. Welcome, Nathan. And also for the spine of our course with the Islamic University of Gaza students who are here in numbers, and lovely to see you. So I'm going to just give you an overview of what we've read. We started, and Professor Rod, you'll notice that we didn't follow them in the same order that you wrote them in. We looked at learner differences and motivation, Principle 9, in the second week after our introduction. Then we moved on to look at the principle which compares learning rules with learning formulaic expressions. That's Rod's principle number 1. Then we looked at the importance of focusing on meaning, Rod's principle 2. Then we compared issues surrounding learning implicit knowledge and learning explicit knowledge, which is principle 4. Then we focused on form, principle 3. Then we looked at the importance of input, principle 6, the importance of output, principle 7. And 2 weeks ago, last week, we looked at interaction in the classroom, principle 8. And obviously, there are 2 missing principles, which I was forced to admit partly for reasons of time. And I don't know if I was right, and maybe we can discuss this at the end, okay? In the system article, Rod has tried to simplify what is an incredibly complex issue, that is instructed second language learning. And in the introduction, Rod himself says that it's an almost impossible task, okay? So it's natural that you and I will have many doubts, because even the experts have doubts. And not every student will have the opportunity to ask an author of Rod's standing questions. So as many people have already said, we're very privileged that Rod has offered his time to help us today. So I echo everybody's thanks to Rod for joining us. So I'm going to hand over now to our students who have prepared some questions. And I think, yes, that Taqwa had quite an interesting question, which I thought might start the ball rolling. So maybe, Taqwa, if you... I don't know, Rod, are you happy? Do you want to say anything yourself before we...
No, let's get started.
Yeah, okay. So Taqwa, would you like to ask the first question?
Yes, I am happy to ask the first question, which is, why are there exactly 10 principles, no more, no less, and is their order important?
Sorry, why I didn't hear that clearly. This is partly because my hearing is not very good, rather than your pronunciation. Could you just repeat the question?
Yes, of course. Why are there exactly 10 principles, no more, no less, and is their order important?
That's a good question. Actually, there are now 11. I added one later. And if I had the opportunity to give you a full talk, I would actually look at that other one. The other principle, the missing principle, the additional principle, dealt with the importance of including cultural aspects in language teaching. That when you're learning a language, it's not just a question of learning the language, it's also a question of learning the culture that goes with the language. So the missing principle, the additional principle, tries to provide a more subjective perspective by taking into account learners' cultural background. There was really two questions. Why 10? Well, now there's 11. The order, yes, the order was sort of significant. I know that Bill chose to start with motivation because he considers that motivation is perhaps the single most important factor. But what I was building at was really from what is general and more universal to what is more individual. So I postponed dealing with motivation until I had dealt with general issues like formulaic expressions, rules, the importance of focusing on meaning, the importance of also focusing on form, input, interaction, output, etc. All of these are general characteristics. And then I wanted to switch to the individual learner. When I started, I picked out two actually, and Bill has only focused on one, motivation, but arguably language aptitude is equally important. If you look at the research would suggest that language aptitude and motivation both contribute about the same influence, the same percentage of influence on language learning. So I hope that gives you the answer to the question.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you as well, Takwa, for a great first question. Yeah, Rod, you understood that, I think you understood that we each bring our own personal feelings to the subject. So yeah, I'm very keen on motivation as a factor. I know that Nazmi is very keen on interaction. I mean, as a factor, which is why we finished with interaction. And perhaps that's because Gaza is so isolated and interaction is so difficult for the students, and yet their English is so fantastic. Thank you for that answer. And I also can see the value, the massive value of adding culture as an 11th principle, as intercultural communication is a factor that myself and Nazmi are both really interested in. Yeah, Rod, let's continue. I don't have any particular order now for the questions, but if a student would like to put their hand up and ask one of the questions that we discussed last week, Nada, please ask Rod your question.
Well, actually, I have two questions. One of them we discussed last week, and the one we discussed was about the motivation, the role of the motivation. So I want to ask, motivation is crucial in successful language learning. So Professor Ellis, from your perspective, what are the most impactful ways teachers can sustain learner motivation over time?
Yeah, motivation is crucial because it's the driving factor, right? I mean, if you like, my questions really divide up into two parts. First of all, how does second language acquisition take place? And what can we do as teachers in order to facilitate it taking place? And then the second thing is, what can we do to give students the motivation, the drive to actually learn the language? So I always see that language learning is really those two things. There is the process of language learning, which I think is largely universal. And there is the issue of how individuals actually carry out that particular process. What can we do to actually motivate students? Well, probably the single most important factor motivating students in the classroom is the teacher. I mean, we can distinguish extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation, there's not a lot you can do about it. Learners will bring to the classroom the motivation that they have to learn a language. The issue more is, what can the teacher do to actually motivate the students? And I think that the teacher is the single most important factor. I think all of us, if we look back at our education, whether it's in learning a language or in learning another subject, can always point to students, to teachers who we found motivating, and other teachers who we did not find motivating, right? So one of the things, for example, that I found very motivating, and that research also shows is very important, is a teacher who is very organized, very structured, so that students have a clear structure in which they are operating during a lesson, etc. Another factor which I think is very important for motivation is opportunities for students to use the language to make meaning from a very early stage. Much of my more recent work and my more recent books have actually moved away from theoretical aspects of second language acquisition and are focusing much more on the particular approach to language teaching that I think is most compatible with my 10 principles, and that is task-based language teaching. Task-based language teaching puts students in a position of having to use language to achieve something. And what research is showing is that task-based language teaching is much more motivating than more traditional types of language teaching.
Thank you very much. I have a second question. Could I ask it?
Go ahead.
You talk about input and interaction, and you highlight the importance of both input and interaction. For a country where students have limited exposure to the L2 environment outside the classroom, what strategies would you recommend to maximize meaningful interaction?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. You know, I mean, as I move around the world, I in China and Japan, etc., I meet students and people who have learned English to a very, very high standard. And I often ask them what they did. And I said, did you just learn it inside the classroom? And they nearly always say, no, they didn't learn it inside the classroom. It's what they did outside the classroom. Now, what they did outside the classroom used to be, in particular, extensive reading and the provision of opportunities for students to have access to books that were appropriate to their particular level of proficiency so that they could actually take them out of the classroom and read them, was one of the main ways in which one can provide input. Extensive reading is still probably the single most important way of providing students with input. They will never get enough input from just inside the classroom. These days, of course, there is the web, and there is access to an enormous amount of material on the web. And therefore, students don't necessarily need a planned extensive reading program if the teacher can direct them to sources where they can obtain things to read on the web that are appropriate for their level of proficiency. And that, I think, is a problem. I don't know of anyone who has actually developed an extensive reading program based on what is available on the web, suited to students at different levels of proficiency. So I think that the answer to your question is that access to input has to come outside the classroom. And I think that any language teacher needs to not just think about what he's going to do inside the classroom, but what he can get students to do outside the classroom.
Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions.
Thank you, Nada. It's interesting to hear Rod talk about reading, because personally, I've been thinking in the past couple of weeks that I'm losing the habit of reading, and I need to do more. I'm not talking about language learning. I'm talking about keeping my brain active. So it's really refreshing to hear that reading is highlighted by Rod there. It's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Can I just welcome other students from IUG? I see Sondos, Mais, Bara, Manar, Amal, thank you for coming. From Northumbria, I'm welcoming Nathan, Sarah, thank you for joining us. Can we have another question for Rod, please? Please put up your hand if you'd like to ask Rod a question. Esra.
Yes, hi everyone. Hi, Dr. Rod Ellis. My question is, nowadays, during the technology evolution, do you think that instructed language learning might be different or having another approach?
No. No.
That simple?
I mean, technology is simply a way of conforming to those 10 principles that I put forward, right? You know, I mean, whether one tries to implement the 10 principles in a classroom or whether one tries to implement them through technology, then I think that the principles stay the same, right? I mean, it is a reality that technology plays a huge role. It's playing a role now. Here we are in different parts of the world, and we are communicating together. So particularly in teacher education these days, I think that technology is crucially important. And technology can, of course, be one of the main ways in which you can provide opportunities for students to get the input that they need, right? Technology also will increasingly provide opportunities for interacting through artificial intelligence and bots that allow you to have conversations with them, etc. And I know, although I can't give any examples, but I know an enormous amount of work is going on trying to develop AI systems to provide learners with opportunities to interact. One of my other principles, the importance of interaction. By the way, many of these principles are interlocked. You take, for instance, the issue about the importance of interaction, but that is equally relevant to the issue of motivation. Because, you know, what is one of the ways in which we can actually motivate learners, and that is by engaging them in meaningful interaction, etc.
Thank you, Rod.
So technology, I think, is very important. But I'm a bit like Bill. I struggle with technology. And I think I have to make a little bit of a more personal statement here. I think the cell phone is a disaster for education, right? I think that for people who don't have a computer or a notebook computer, it's better than nothing. But the problem with the cell phone is it's a very small screen. You cannot really bring much input onto the actual screen. And also, to be absolutely honest, everybody spends hours on their cell phone these days rather than reading. I mean, if we go back to Bill, who says he's not doing any reading, I bet he's looking at his cell phone all the time, though.
Yes.
right? And I must admit, you know, as an 80-year-old, because I'm 80 now, and I look to see what cell phones are doing, it seems to me that they are changing the way in which we relate to the world completely. And one of the ways in which it's changed is it stopped people reading. It's also stopped people writing. You know, we used to write letters to each other, long letters. Now, if you have a cell phone, you know, you're not going to write a long letter. Everything is short texts, etc. So it does seem to me that cell phones are not ideally suited to implementing some of the principles that I mentioned. Possibly, yes, in terms of providing input, less so in terms of interaction, and even less so in terms of output, because I think the opportunity to actually produce extended output using the cell phone is very limited. Possible, but limited. So I think there is a huge challenge, which is, you know, how can we make technology work in terms of those 10 principles? And I think we're a long way from knowing how to do that. And I
Thank you.
suspect when it comes down to it, all of us would rather, I'm sure that we would all be much happier if we were all together face to face in the classroom. But of course, that's not possible. And that's the advantage of technology, but the limitations as well.
Thank you, Professor Ellis, for answering my question. I actually have another one, if I may ask it.
Go ahead.
Yes. I'm sure that when you wrote these principles, they were very helpful for you to teach a second language for your students. But my question is, did they help you yourself to acquire a new language and make you a good language learner?
Oh, did they make me a good language learner? No, I'm not a very good language learner. I have dabbled in learning a number. One of the reasons I'm not a good language learner is I was ruined at school. You know, I went to school in the 1950s and French was taught through translation. German also similarly taught through translation. So I learned French, I learned German, but I never really mastered those. I could read it, understand, but the ability to speak is very, very low. Interestingly, the language which I, in many ways, find it easiest to speak is Spanish. Because when I left university in 1965, I went to work in Spain, in a very, very small town in Spain as a language teacher. And I didn't know any Spanish when I arrived. So I basically had to learn it in the bars, in the cafes, in the restaurants, talking to people, etc. So I learned it in a completely different way. And in terms of my communicative ability, I'm actually much better off, even though I was actually only living in Spain for about 4 months. I'm much better off. I find it much easier to say a few words in Spanish than I do in my school French and school German.
Thank you. Esra, your second question was a great one. Yeah. I think Rod has the same problem that I mentioned. My inability to learn the languages that I've tried to learn. In a sense, I've been ruined or adversely affected by the way I was taught. Just before we move on, and it was interesting to hear Rod talk about the interlocking nature of the principles, because I think that's important to understand that they don't live separately, and that's what makes them complex and interesting. It was interesting to hear Rod talk about the limitations of mobile phones, but of course, many of the people in Gaza will be joining us on their mobiles precisely.
I understand that. I understand that.
But the reason, it's the lack of electricity. I imagine that they are about the most energy-friendly option available in Gaza. But and it's incredible that the Gazan students have developed such great English abilities. Despite not having our advantages in being able to find the communicative language situations that Rod, you were talking about, for example, in your 4 months in Spain, which we've all benefited.
I mean, I think it would be very interesting to find out how the people from Gaza, I mean, how are they trying to learn English? What are they doing? Right.
Well, yeah.
I mean, what opportunities to interact in English do they have?
Yeah. Would you like?
I wonder. I mean, I think it would be very interesting to actually look and see what opportunities for learning English in terms of my principles there are.
Yeah, could I throw that open briefly to ask the students what they actually do to interact? I'm aware of the problem of time, but maybe a couple of students could just tell us now what do you do to interact? Esra again, yeah.
Yes, actually, learning English during these circumstances is pretty hard, especially that when you learn a language, you need to practice and you need to be engaged with society talking in English. However, in these circumstances, we tend to practice by our own, practice listening, practice speaking. I do have conversations with myself in front of the mirror, and this is my way of practicing speaking. And also for listening and reading, we do some exercises by our own, searching on the internet, as I do believe that technology is important and it's the way that we are majoring in our like English, as I'm an English student, and this is how I'm studying my major online. We don't have college now, so I think technology is important and it helps me a lot, and that's it.
Okay, that's interesting. Anyone else has any other different ways of practicing in answer to practicing in front of the mirror? Calls to mind one of Rod's principles that you can monitor your own output and improve from that, which is something I doubted for a while, but obviously Esra is doing that in front of the mirror. Another student, can you? I can't see who's got their hand up, but please, Hala, please, Hala, what would you like to say?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Hala Khatib, and I would like to say that I made a challenge to myself, 30 days challenge to practice English, writing and speaking and listening. So every day I write what happened with me. Then at night I say it in a voice message and I send it to myself on Telegram. Then I hear it again at the second day, and I look at my pronunciation, my grammar, what I have to improve in my English, and then to improve my listening, I watch videos.
Another thing.
Just like TEDx channel and My Story Animated. I try to watch movies in British accent and American accent to improve my accent and actually to choose one. I love British accent a lot, but I see it maybe more difficult than American. So I try to improve it. And yeah, that's my way. I love practicing, and that's my language.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me you're just illustrating what I said and giving lots of detail, which is, it's what you do by yourself outside of a classroom.
Yeah.
And that's where the language learning takes place. And you found various ways of getting in touch with English and practicing English, etc. I mean, possibly the one thing that you find difficulty with is having opportunities to actually interact in English. And I wonder whether you do have that. Do you interact in English with your friends?
Yeah, sometimes we agree at the weekend. We have a call and we speak in English. We don't master it actually, and sometimes we have the difficulty to express ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're suggesting is really helpful. You know, I mean, what we need is more research showing what people like you are doing in order to develop their English, right? What you're doing by yourself individually. And if we could develop, if we could draw up a set of lists and examples of what learners can actually do outside the classroom, then I think that is one of the things that teachers can usefully do. They don't very often. Teachers just focus on the classroom, and they don't really bother to think very much about what they can do to help their students get access to English outside the classroom.
Well, actually, I had a mister before when I talk conversation. Told me think in English, write in English, speak in English every day. That's the way that you'll improve your English. And that's before 2 years. And until now, following his advice.
Thank you. Thank you, Hala. Rod, I will say it now that you just need to tell us when you want to go, because it's late.
We can, if there are another couple of questions, we can manage that.
Fantastic.
But then
okay.
I'm beginning to get a little tired here. I woke up very early today here.
I appreciate that. I do understand that. I'd like to finish with one very brief question myself, and maybe I know that the Northumbria students have joined us. Nathan, Sarah, anyone from Northumbria, if you have a different perspective, you know, you are L1 speakers of English, then please do ask Rod a question. Could we have another question from an IUG student? Would anyone like to ask a question? One more question? Okay. Well then, Hala, yeah?
I want to ask, which principle do you think it's the most important one, or which principle is your favorite?
I don't really have a favorite. Because I think the principles are sort of perspectives on what is a complex phenomenon, and it's an attempt to identify the different aspects of a very complex phenomenon. So I cannot just pick one out, right? I think that, I mean, if you look at sort of second language acquisition research in general, then probably the principle that they would perhaps most home in on is the principle dealing with interaction and the importance of interaction for language learning. But personally, I think that whereas interaction is very, very important for language learning, I don't think it's the only way that you can learn. I think you can learn by watching videos, you can learn by watching books. We know that many aspects of language learning don't actually involve interaction. So to perhaps suggest that interaction is fundamental to language learning is not actually correct. It's beneficial for language learning, but it must be linked with the other things, the access to input, the access to output, right? The opportunities for learning implicitly, opportunities for learning explicitly, etc. So I couldn't choose a favorite one because all these principles interlock to account for what is a very complex phenomenon.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Rod.
you.
I think just one more question from Gaza. Has anybody not asked a question yet? If there is a person from Gaza who has not asked a question,
Yes, I would like to ask a question if possible.
please.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Rod, for all these inspiring and really informative discussion and answers to the questions of the students. I would like to, taking into consideration the context of the challenges that the students have been living in Palestine, in displacement, in isolation, under siege, under occupation, limited resources, etc. Yet the motivation for education is very strong and very high, because it's a lifeline for Palestinians, for education, for interaction, for economic, socio-economic purposes. I would be happy to listen to your advice to our students about anything you would like to say to them as English language learners, and maybe also for us as English language teachers. Thank you.
I would think, I mean, obviously I read a lot about what has happened in Gaza. I'm horrified by what is happening in Gaza. I think so many people around the world feel the same. It must be very difficult to actually focus on education in Gaza. On the other hand, education is an escape route for people. You know, I mean, they can perhaps hope for a better life if they can get educated, etc., in Gaza or outside Gaza. And I know many people who learn English, give priority to the learning of English because they see it as a route to a better life. And I suspect that there are people in Gaza like that now, right? And all I can say is that, I mean, we're back to motivation, right?
Yeah.
One very strong motivation for people in situations where they are very uncomfortable and don't want to be in is to see what they can do to potentially get out of it, etc. And learning language is one way. This is particularly true, for example, in Iran. I visited Iran many times, and I'm always amazed about the high quality of English of so many Iranians that I meet, etc. And it's very clear to me that one of the reasons why they are so interested in learning English is that, if you like, it gives them a route outside everyday life in Iran, which they may not be very happy with, etc. So, I mean, we are really back to what is one of the most powerful motivating factors in places like Iran or Gaza, where people are under threat, where people are perhaps dissatisfied in various ways, and they can see English as a way out. Used to happen in China, not so much these days, but a long time ago, it happened in China. I mean, I can remember one PhD student that I had when I worked in the United States from China. This was way back in 1993. And, you know, I asked him, you know, why did you make all this effort to learn English? And he said, because I wanted a better life. And he saw English as one way of achieving that better life. And I suspect that that is definitely something that is going on in Gaza now, and very, very understandable. If you have the motivation, I mean, Bill is right. You know, if you have the motivation, then you will find access to English, probably again through technology to a large extent, because I think probably it's not easy to get books in Gaza, at a guess. So largely through technology. And, you know, sorry, the previous speaker who said that she felt technology is very important. Yes, I think in Gaza, it must be hugely important and must be one of the main ways in which they can get access to English.
Thank you very much. If I just briefly comment on this, and technology and motivation and interaction and language. I used to say to my students long time ago, even 20 years ago, and now more, that if English language gets married to technology, they will produce healthy, wealthy baby, which means good life, better life. Because especially for us, as you said, I agree with you. For us, it's education and technology are important. Now, without such technology, we wouldn't be able, and
No,
without
I know.
language, we wouldn't be able to communicate and interact. For us, I'm sure my students consider themselves very fortunate to have this opportunity to express themselves and to listen to others and interact with others. So it's for intercultural communication as well, as you mentioned. So they are learning. This good experience for them, not to learn only language, but also to interact culturally, as you added the 11th principle. So language and technology are two means and two tools for better life, especially, yes, in context of challenges. I fully agree with you.
Yeah, I mean,
on
they're really important in a context like Gaza, or as I've said, amongst certain people, not everybody, but certain people in Iran as well, and other countries as well.
Thank you.
Other countries as well.
Thank you.
Interestingly, you know, you don't have that kind of motivation for people to learn foreign languages in New Zealand. They don't have it. You know, they don't need to learn French or Chinese or Japanese, right? They don't need to do it. It's not crucial. It's not central for their lives. And therefore, foreign language teaching in New Zealand is slowly dying. Many universities are cutting down the language programs that they are offering for students now, which is very sad.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the English language department, it's the biggest department in the university, in any Palestinian university. It has more than 10% of the students are studying in the English language department, plus all other courses are in colleges like medicine and engineering. The English is the medium of instruction. So it's very important for Palestinians to keep using not only English, even they're now starting to use other language, but English is the master key to better life.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. Can I'm aware that that we are keeping Rod a long time, so I just wonder if anybody from Northumbria University, I mean, one of the students on my introduction to TESOL would like to ask something now. I see Nathan. Can you bring a perspective as an English language student studying in England, Nathan?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I just had a question. And first of all, I want to say for the 11th principle, I really agree with that a lot, as English is my first language. In my free time, I study the Croatian language as a hobby. And the main reason why I chose to do this and the main motivation was to better understand the culture of the country because I just fell in love with it. And for me, learning the language was a way to kind of get closer to that. Through the experience of learning the language, there's not many study materials or tests in the language because it doesn't have a lot of speakers and not a lot of people take it as a second language. So my question was, do you have a way that you think is best to measure proficiency in a language?
Well, of course, that was my last principle, that if we want to measure learners' language development, their proficiency, then I argued that you need tests that measure their ability to use language fairly spontaneously, automatically, as opposed to tests that allow them plenty of time to access their explicit knowledge of the language. And a lot of thinking about language testing these days is partly based on teaching the different skills, speaking, listening, reading, writing, but also having tests that tap into learners' ability to use the language fluently, automatically, as opposed to other ways of assessing them that assess their ability to use the language consciously, after deliberating, after thinking, etc. And if we go back to what I said about learning French and German in school many, many, many years ago, there were just no opportunities for developing fluency in the language. There are no opportunities for learning how to process input as it came at you, etc., because everything was done through was done through English, which was the L1. And really, there was absolutely no opportunity for all the processes which I'm trying to capture in the 10 principles to actually effectively operate inside the classroom. So I passed tests, I got an O level in French, but I can't speak it.
Thank you. It's interesting, Nathan, that your question homed in on one of the 2 principles that I had to leave out. And it's also interesting that Rod remembers, it's 20 years ago since you wrote the article, but you immediately remembered that this was the 10th principle. And Nathan, I will happily talk to you about the 10th principle, about the difficulty of testing fluency in particular that Rod has mentioned. And you can read it in the meantime, but thank you for a really good question, Nathan. I'm going to ask one final question, and then I think we should let Rod go. Is that okay? If I had my own question is, here today, Rod, you have teachers of English whose first language, or trainee teachers of English whose first language is English, and you also have trainee teachers of English who have English as a second language, our participants from Gaza. So my question is, do you think that one group is at an advantage over the other? Does that make sense?
Oh, I think that is a very complicated question to answer. The native speaker of English, the person who speaks English as an L1, obviously probably has a proficiency advantage. They know more vocabulary, etc., right?
Yeah.
But they also have a disadvantage. They are unable to use the students' L1 to help them actually teach the language. And I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, particularly these days with all the talk of translanguaging, of which I'm not a huge fan, but I am a fan of accepting that use of the L1 in the English classroom is important if it's used strategically and carefully. and not used to remove the opportunity for learners to learn how to process input online, etc., as it comes at them, right? So, I mean, I think it's a very difficult question. I think it's pros and cons. Very often, the non-native speaker teaching in their own country is very familiar with the students, very familiar with the educational system, very familiar with the student's background, the student's culture, etc. And all of this is an advantage to them, right? So, I mean, you can just see pros and cons here. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters whether a teacher has English as their first language or whether the teacher uses English as a second language. I don't think it matters. I think what is much more important is teaching ability, the ability of the teacher to actually create context in the classroom where language learning can take place, etc.
Yeah, I completely agree. Teaching ability, yeah, it sounds so simple, but it is the key thing. Yeah, and
It is.
I know that from speaking to our students at IUG over the past 10 weeks, I think they share with you doubts about recent developments in translanguaging, and I think it was my student Mice who was saying that it's important to try to maximize use of English in English language classroom without throwing out completely the possibilities of using the L1 to overcome points of points of difficulty, but you do need to maximize the use of English in the English language classroom. Yeah. Well, we could probably carry on for ages with you, Rod, but it's probably getting on for about 9 o'clock in the evening. And I think you've already been wonderful in sharing your time and your experience. And just as we let you go, I'm going to recommend to the students an article which you wrote just this year, which I think is really interesting about form focused teaching and how the complexities there. It's complex, but I'll just show you the article that I'm going to show to students. I think it's a great read. The Essential Bookshelf. So it's basically a short list of books that Rod himself has depended on. Is that true to say in the past?
Absolutely, yeah.
Appreciated in the past 20, 30 years. It's a great read. It's not easy. It's much harder than the article we've been looking at, but I will share it with our students because I think it's great. Rod,
well, Bill,
yeah.
Bill, I do need to go now, but I just want to thank you for inviting me. It's been a privilege. And, it's been a privilege to me because we read so much about what happens in Gaza and we are powerless. We don't really feel that we can do anything. And you have actually given me the opportunity to do something in a very small way for people who are in Gaza. And that means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. So thank you very, very much for the invitation.
Thank you. I understand what you mean. It's for me, it's a real privilege to work with these students from Gaza. They bring so much to my life, and so I do understand what you're saying. And thank you, Rod. Maybe Nazmi, you would like to thank Rod finally before we lose him for today.
Thank you, really. We highly appreciate your contribution, which means a lot to us. To stay late at night to talk and answer to our students in Gaza. This means a lot, and in this way, you are contributing in supporting education and increasing motivation, not only for learning English, but also for education and for creating better life. And we hope your participation and all other colleagues and Bill as well can contribute more in such collaborative way, using technology and creating more interaction to increase motivation and improve attitude. Thank you all. Thank you, Rod,
Thank
for
you.
everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rod.
I know you're going to carry on now, but I'm going to actually get myself something to eat and then go to bed.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Okay.
All right.
Enjoy,
Bye-bye.
enjoy your meal.
I will. Thank you.
Goodbye. Shukran. Shukran.
Bye bye.
Okay. So I don't know, before we move on to something very nice, which is some certificates for our students from Gaza. I'm sorry, Sarah, Nathan, you have no certificate. I hope you forgive me, but I don't know if anybody in the audience would like to say anything. We have people we have Billy, Alex, Sam, Nancy. Anyone like to add anything? Sarah, Nathan, anyone from Gaza? Do you feel you want to say anything? Nada.
We sincerely thank you for volunteering your time to join us for these sessions. Your presence and insights mean a lot to us, and we are always excited to learn from your valuable experience.
Thank you, Nada. It's my privilege. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I would like then to move on. Just 1 second. I don't know if anyone from the UK would like to say anything. Feel free.
Sorry, would it be possible to say something?
Yeah, sure.
I read the comments made by some of our colleagues, which is really again very supportive to us, and education to us, we have no choice but to educate ourselves. Even in the hardships, we have no resources like oil or gas or industry or tourism or whatever, industry or whatever. The only thing is education. It's a rope of hope to, as Rod said today, for better life at all levels. And in fact, the dedication of my students give us lessons. For example, just you allow me just 2 minutes maybe to say how these students, even young students, educate us as educators. When the university started 8 or 9 months after the war was continuing, we started the administration to discussing, can we start teaching? Can we resume teaching online to our students in tents and in displacement, etc.? That was a big question and a challenge for decision makers at universities, all Palestinian universities in Gaza. And I was, to be honest, I was expecting maybe 30, 40 students to join my course that I teach, which is oral communication skills. I was expecting 30, 40, maybe out, excuse me, out of 100, 120 or so. I'd say if 30 students enroll in this course, it's perfect, taking into consideration the current situation. To my surprise, to show motivation and the strong determination, 100 students enrolled in my course. They motivated me to work and to teach with strong motivation and determination, and to work hard, and not to say no to any opportunity for giving sessions like this, or collaborating with different colleagues in different countries. And to more surprising, when the first trial course or semester finished, 8 weeks was as a pilot. We want to see, and to our surprise, it was successful. The second semester, now 170 students enrolled in my course, which indicates more than about 63% of the students joined the courses, the university again, to continue their education under bombardment, in displacement, in tents, without electricity. The only thing they have is a brain and motivation, mind and heart. With mind and heart and strong will, wherever there is a will, there is a way. They succeeded. And it's a matter of also asserting our national identity. We are here. We exist. We are human. We are people. We deserve better life. That's the message education is giving and collaboration is giving. That these talented, hardworking people, who are young people, who are full of enthusiasm and determination, not to succeed, but to excel and to be distinguished and outstanding, deserve respect and deserve to be given better life and peaceful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazmi. Wow, yeah, I completely agree. The people in Gaza are going through hell at the moment, and their resilience is inspiring for us here. So I would like to pass on to something really nice, which is the possibility, excuse me if I'm not sure how to share, just a second. Oh.
Share, you want to share?
I wanted to share,
just to click share, the green arrow.
Okay, just a second.
Green button.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh, if I click end show, will that take me out of the PowerPoint?
Just click share. You want to share another file?
I'm already just a second. Okay, I think that's okay. Now, just a second. I would like now to share some certificates with everybody. So, just can you still see my screen, Nazmin?
Yes, but
yeah.
You need to choose a file.
Okay.
Sure.
Just a second. Right. So I'm going to start by just giving certificates to. So Nazmi, maybe you could call out if you can see the list. I'm going to start with Asil, and because Asil wrote to me today or yesterday to tell me that she wouldn't have enough battery to join us, and I think maybe Asil is not here with us. But can you see this certificate? Is this?
Yeah, I can see Asil Muammar.
Yeah. Okay, so
Muammar, yeah.
This is for Asil, and I want to show you, let's have a look. Certificate. This certificate is presented to Asil Muammar, who has attended the following 20-hour course at Northumbria University, Understanding Instructed Language Learning, led by Dr. Bill Guarienta. And can you see an interesting word after that? We have the word professor, because yesterday, Dr. Nazmi Al-Masri became Professor Nazmi Al-Masri. And I want to just say congratulations, Nazmi. I'm so happy that this has
Thank
happened.
you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Nazmi or Professor
Thank-
Nazmi.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you,
It's-
Alex, and thank you, Nancy.
Congratulations.
Hala. Thank you all.
It's wonderful news. Okay, so who can you let's work through. Nazmi, do you want to call out a name and I will open the certificate?
Okay, I'll start alphabetical, maybe
Okay.
easier. For those who are at least are here. Amal,
Yeah.
Abu
Okay.
Dabba.
All
Amal,
right. So, excuse me. You can
Abu
see as
Dabbab. Yes.
just a second.
Amal.
Amal. So, thank you, Amal, and congratulations. Thank you for joining
Congratulations.
us. So, I hope you can see your certificate. We will find out a way to send it to you, but here it is, Amal. Thank you for joining our course. Congratulations as well. Okay, another student.
Another student next is alphabetical is Asil. Sorry, Asil is not here. Is
Oh,
Amina. Amina is not here today.
No.
Bara. Bara Abu Khadr.
Okay. Here you are, Bara. Congratulations and thank you for joining us today, and all the best for the future. Well done. Okay. Another
Next
student.
Yes, another one is Isra Abu Qamar. Congratulations.
Well done, Isra, and thank you for joining us. Okay, we will send and thank you for all of your questions during the course. Another student.
Hala Al Khatib. Congratulations.
Yeah, great. Hala, thank you. Shukran, and for the questions today as well. Okay.
Mais
عفواً.
Yeah.
Mais Al-Bahnasawi. Mais.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much for joining us during the course. You asked lots of questions, and many thanks to you. Okay, here's your certificates. Another
Next
student.
is Nada Al-Hindi. Congratulations.
Here you are, Nada. Thank you very much for being with us for the past 10 weeks.
Next is Ragad Abu Ariban. Congratulations.
Well done, Rahad. Thank you for joining us. And yes, congratulations here. Here is your certificate. This is a pleasure to me to be doing this.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying it a lot. Thank you, Rahad.
Thank you.
Okay. Another.
Next is Sondus Abu Hlayl. Congratulations, Sondus.
Well done, Sondos. And a special thank you to you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Okay.
Next is Taqwa Elwawi. Congratulations.
Here's your certificate, Taqwa. Thank you, and thank you for starting the conversation today with the question. It's always quite frightening to ask the first question. So thank you for joining us during the last 10 weeks as well. Yeah.
Next is Yumna Armana.
Okay.
Congratulations, Yumna.
Here is your certificate, Yumna. Thank you so much for coming today. Shukran. Okay, here is your certificate.
Next is Zaina Abu Al-Amrain. Congratulations, Zaina.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Zaina.
Where is Zaina's certificate? Oh, here. Good. Whew. I was worried for a second. Zaina, I haven't lost your certificate. So thank you. Here is your certificate. And thank you for coming today.
I called only the names who are at least on the attendance.
Yes,
here.
that's right. Yeah.
If maybe forgot someone. Manar Ashraf, I think. Manar. I can
Yeah,
see her name
yeah.
now. Yes.
Manar, did we show you your certificate, Manar?
No.
No.
Oh,
No.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Manar, here is your certificate, Manar. We haven't forgotten you.
Congratulations, Manar.
Congratulations and thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Anybody
Okay.
else? Anyone else?
Anybody else who we didn't call her name and she's here with us? Anybody? This is what I have on the attendance sheet here.
Okay. Well,
So 13 students attended today from IUG. One,
okay.
two,
That's
three,
that's a
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, yes.
okay. So that's, I think, possibly all. Let me think. Just a second. Is there anything else? Have we done the certificates? Nazmi has spoken. I will send you the article that I talked about, which is Professor Ellis's most recent article. It's very difficult, but it also helps to clarify something which I find difficult, which is the issue of form. Now, Nazmi, I know you said that that the article that we looked at over the past 10 years was difficult, but your students are so strong and so dedicated that they were able to understand it. So I will share this article with you. I find it very interesting, but it's not easy. So please don't be disheartened if you don't understand it all, because I don't understand it all. It's more difficult than the article we've been looking at, but I think you will find some of it interesting. So I will share it with you. Okay. And I think, Nazmi, you have your hand up for a final comment. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Let me first of all thank Dr. Bill for initiating this collaboration. It started from Northumbria, and thanks to Northumbria University for facilitating this collaboration and supporting this collaboration. We are really proud of working with Northumbria University at institutional and individual level. In fact, we work together. I worked together with Bill when he was working at the University of Glasgow, and now he resumed working from Northumbria. We are very grateful to you, Bill. We're proud of working with you again and again, and we feel really grateful with great gratitude to you because you initiated this without asking you for doing this collaboration. You contacted me and said, what do you think, Nazmi, if it is possible to work? And that was 3-4 months ago when there was no teaching in Gaza yet. And still the situation was very unsafe, still unsafe, but it was difficult time at the beginning. We were shocked of what's happening. And anyway, that's long story. What I want to say, this is really a big achievement for people who support education, who support humans and their humanity, encourages them and motivates them to support their humans. And for the sake of humanity and for the sake of improving quality of life of people who are living in context of challenges, context of forced displacement and forced challenges, man-made challenges, not disasters, not earthquakes, not floods, not natural disasters, but man-made disasters. That's one point. Second point, I want to say that in order to hopefully we learn lessons from students and from our experiences, we will send the students of Gaza a questionnaire, online questionnaire on this course. And we'll keep in touch with you on the same group, WhatsApp group. Maybe tomorrow or today, by tomorrow, you will receive the link to complete the online questionnaire. And I hope you all answer it or answer the questions. Very brief, but take your time. Don't just do it as a job. Do it as a task-based assessment. Okay. It's anonymous. You can write whatever you like. You don't have to write your name. And feel free to express your views, the good things, and maybe the things to be improved. Give it a thought, think about it, and use convenient time when it is convenient to you. Do the questionnaire, please complete it and just submit it online. We learn a lot from you and from what you're writing, because we are going also to benefit from what you are doing to publish and to present this in a conference, hopefully, to talk about you as Palestine, as Gaza, as how are you determined, successful, distinguished students and Palestinian. So through we want to try to make use of, with Bill, of course. I mean, myself and Bill, of course, without you, we can't do anything, because we learn from you, we take data from you in order to share it with the whole world. And as you have seen what Bill has done today when he invited all our colleagues from different departments, from different countries, to be with us. That's a big success for you, Bill, and big achievement. And really, no word in lexicon better or can give you better way of saying thank you. So I need your collaboration, the students. So please keep an eye on the group. We might work with you again and again, who knows? So keep an eye, and let's keep instead of giving your reflections on the WhatsApp, you give your reflection on the questionnaire. It's open-ended, the question, almost all of them, except maybe one. When it is finalized today, hopefully, or tomorrow, you will get it. Thank you all, and thank you for steadfasting with us, for your perseverance from week 1 to week 10. 10 weeks in such time where there is no mood for learning. But you killed all the fear. You are heroes. You killed all the worries. You could overcome the internal demotivating factors of lack of resources. I would congratulate you on your victory on the challenges, not only on the certificates, but the certificate is a sign that you are victorious. You are very successful, determined ladies, and the future is very bright to you all. I can assure you, in 10 years of time, you will be doing more greater than what we are doing, me and Bill. You will do much better. And yesterday, I had also meeting with master students, with Bill's wife and another colleague from Glasgow University. And I was saying something similar to this, that some of the trainers in training the Palestinian students in Gaza are some of my students who are working in Finland and in the UK. And when they were students like you 10 years ago, and now they are doctorate, they have good doctorate, and they are doctors and working in Finnish universities and the British universities, and they are exchanging their experiences to their colleagues in Gaza. And hopefully, in a few years of time, we will see you also paying back to your people, to your country, to your homeland, who deserve better, peaceful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazmi. And just finally over to the students. I see a couple of hands are raised. Please, if you have anything to say, do let me know.
Yes. I'd like to say something.
Who is this?
Isra.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank Professor Nazmi for his words, as they are really meaningful and touching. And I want to say congratulations for having the professor degree. You talked about our perseverance and our hard work, but here you go. You are the having dedication and a remarkable work. So that's really impressive. And I want to thank Dr. Bell for this initiative. It was a really insightful one. These few weeks were a good escape from our ongoing harsh reality. I really enjoyed every session, and I'm so thankful for you both for giving us this chance. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Esther.
Isra.
And anything else from a student? Thank you for those kind words.
Taqwa.
Taqwa.
I
Taqwa, we've
really
lost
don't
you.
even know where to
Again,
start.
Taqwa.
Say
Again, we
thanks.
couldn't hear you.
This
Taqwa.
course has been amazing, and I always looked forward to Friday to get away from everything.
Thank you, Taqwa.
Thank you.
I realize that your daily lives are so difficult. So your words are very kind and they mean a lot to me. Yes, thank you, Taqwa. Anybody else?
Thank you all. And thank all those who joined us today from Northumbria University. We highly appreciate your participation with us, which means a lot to us. Just coming to join us to Gaza students means a lot to us. We highly appreciate that, and we hope we collaborate with you to widen our collaboration so it involves more students, more academic colleagues, and more departments, and more productivity and better collaboration. Thank you all. Special thanks to all those who come from Northumbria University, Dr. Bill, and thank you for inviting them.
Thank you. Zaina, you have your hand up.
Huge contrast for Professor Nazmi, and thank you, Dr. Bell, for giving us this fabulous opportunity. We're really grateful for you, and actually, we're gonna miss this session. You improved us a lot and give us a lot of great skills. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Zaina. Okay. I don't know if Billy is with us now, but if Billy, are you there?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to say just as we close?
Just thanks very much again. And as I said in the chat, I agree with Nazmi's comment about how we learn from students. And, you know, every semester I learn a lot from the students I teach, but I feel that I've learned a lot today. And as I said in the chat, I will continue learning because I'm thinking about all these different ideas that have been raised, and I'll be thinking about them in the coming days. And yeah, I just feel really lucky to have been here and joined the session. So thank you very much, Bill, Nazmi, and all the students in Gaza and in Northumbria for joining. Thanks.
Great. And just to literally, this is the last word. My Arabic is terrible. I can say thank you, shukran. I can say all, which I think is kulu. So how do I say thank you to all, Nazmi, in Arabic?
Shukran lakum. Shukran lakum. Lakum.
Shukran lekum. Shukran lekum. It's been a complete privilege the past 10 weeks. You've given me so much. Shukran lekum. And have a good
Shukran
weekend.
lakum.
Goodbye.
Shukran lakum. And thank you for those who came very early to attend this in the UK. That's really amazing and heart pleasing. Thank you. Shukran lakum in Arabic also.
Goodbye, everybody.